right, welcome to the Golden Glory Podcast, the bi-weekly MMO show that dives beneath the surface, asks the hard questions, and uncovers how you, the player, can maximize your impact in-game. Our current focus is the upcoming MMORPG from Artcraft Entertainment, Crowfall. This is episode 13. Ooh.
Lucky 13. Lucky 13.
Spectacular Speculation. We are broadcasting live on Tuesday, May 26th, 2015. And today's hosts are Anhrez the Economist and Arawulf.
Hey, all.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, hey, all. How are you guys doing? Hopefully your gaming week has been much more successful than mine. I just have not been able to squeeze them out any time with a long holiday and some travel to get any gaming in. I am looking forward to diving back into both WildStar and SWTOR. So got both of them kind of loaded up, and I'm looking forward to digging back in.
Nice, nice. And Arawulf, the virtuous hero. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you. Good to always good to be here. These 2 weeks seem to take forever sometimes. But no, it's good. I've been playing some Witcher 3, spending quite a few hours doing that, enjoying that game. Popped into Guild Wars 2 a little bit this week. I'm doing some rearranging here at home. I'm actually running on a different computer right now. But having a good time. Enjoying doing some writing for a brand new MMO site that some of us friends have launched called MMO Central. And we're enjoying putting content out there. We're just another site that's doing our best to try to keep the MMO fires burning. As you know, a lot of times, a lot of other types of games are getting popular. But that's a lot of fun doing that. I encourage y'all to check that out. And enjoying my time learning more about Crowfall. I know we haven't had a lot of new information, but I think we'll have a good time digging out some details today.
Yeah, there's some nuggets laying around.
Looks like we're having problem. Are you guys seeing the stream? They're saying we're having problems here.
Yeah, it's blinked out a couple times, but I'm seeing it now. It looks like it's really delayed.
Yeah, it looks like it's really delayed.
But I think it's okay.
Okay, well, we'll keep on rolling. I am Chief Sarcan, the completionist. Unlike Arawulf, my couple of weeks have been flying by. And so, yeah, it's just been a crazy couple of weeks. I took a trip. Now I'm back, and we're trying to get caught up and looking forward to talking about Crowfall. I have not really had a chance to play anything these past couple of weeks. Playing a little bit World of Warships, but other than that, yeah, not a whole lot. So over to you, Mike. What's up with the news?
All right, so from the G&G news desk, here is the latest in Crowfall. I gotta do my news voice.
News vest. Gotta have a news voice. There it is.
Here's the latest in Crowfall news. Artcraft Entertainment has discussed how they're going to handle changes in features and products that are already sold. So, for example, as a game's still in development, it's inevitable that things will need to be tweaked from time to time. And according to the recent news post, any changes, for example, in a particular style fortress, as they shared in the post, they're going to first make sure that any changes they make throughout the development of the game, they're going to try to benefit the player. They're going to try to make the changes in a way that favors people who have already made a purchase. If the change does not benefit the player, for example, something gets nerfed, then the player will be compensated accordingly. Also, if it turns out that the players really don't like the change at all and they feel that they wouldn't have made that purchase, they will be able to refund first store credits. So that it just makes sense. I think that's a good program. In addition to that, additional Eternal Kingdoms questions were answered and compiled by J. Todd Coleman on the forums in the Crowfall news post. Another change that's happened, anyone that's been on the forums may have noticed that the forum access, being able to post on the forums, has been adjusted to be backer only primarily. This move was expected since it's very common for a pay-to-play MMO to have their forums be reserved for their customers, and that's no different in this case. Finally, the community was given a peek at some updated Centaur concepts and some backstory. Yeah, I know you want the guinea pig stuff. I know. But fans were also given, and this is the part I think you like, James. They were also given a very creepy looking pic of John O'Neill watching Eric Hart doing some work there. He's kind of blurring the background, just kind of watching. That's management training. That's what that is. Leaning on the desk, watching somebody work. I think he's going to do well. I think John's got a real shot at the
CIO. Definitely a CIO job.
Gordon and Todd need to be watching their back. They're because we know that's all Gordon and Todd are doing, just kind of sitting back and leaning at the desk all day, right? Absolutely. Not really, no. Other than that, that's really all we really have as far as news. I know the Artcraft team is hard at work making the game. So that is all from the G&G News Desk. On with the show. Now, here are a couple of quicks. And Franklin, I'm not sure if you're muted if you were trying to talk there.
I was trying to talk. Sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
I had a feeling. Just something told me that you were probably trying to talk. But what I wanted to do is before we dive into our speculation spectacular, I wanted to talk about a couple of the quick topics that were from the news. For example, because a couple of these things did garner some discussion among the community, and for some it seemed to be a little bit of drama. I'm not exactly sure that I really felt it was all that dramatic, but I want to toss it out to you guys and get your thoughts on them. First of all, if in a game that's in development, sometimes changes need to happen to products that are already sold. We've sold these packages, and now as the change, as the game develops, something has to be changed or nerfed or updated or whatever. What do you think about Artcraft preemptively going out and saying, hey, listen, let me show you how we're going to handle this in the future? Do you guys think that this is just normal transparency? Hey, listen, we're preparing for some changes in the future. We don't know what's going to change, but something might change. Or do you think this may mean they've got some big changes coming and they're trying to kind of set us up for it? What do you think?
Franklin, you go first, because I'm more generic on my answer.
So if I understand the question, I am not muted anymore, am I?
No,
nope, you're good.
Just checking. All right, so I just completely lost my train of thought.
Let me jump in with mine. So
okay, go ahead.
I looked at this and I reread it 3 or 4 times because my problem was I read it once and I went right to the forums. And it just, people were all over the place, like running with scissors and stuff like that. So I had to take a step back from the forums. I came out and read it again. And then I'm just like, really what they're saying is we're not sure. We know change is going to happen. We're not sure the breadth or width or depth of these changes. But I felt that they were, what I needed to hear, I heard was, they brought about our benefit. They thought, brought about clarity and communication and transparency. And when it comes down to, those are the things that I need to hear from a company when describing something I can't put into words yet. You know what I mean? If I can't view the overall changes or questions that I have, all I can really hope for is that philosophically the company is going to align with my hopes and my concerns. And, that's what I like, that, that kind of third part that they put in their statement about change was, they are looking for what our benefits are. They are looking at the concept of listening and being transparent with these things. And that's kind of what I needed to hear, because I can't visualize yet. We don't have enough information at least for myself to understand, what, if any, changes are going to impact me that I would feel fiscally that I needed recourse on.
So if later on in development they say, you know what, we're going through development and we're not going to be able to have Ganetians,
that would be tough.
A little bit.
It would be. I would, and they would be transparent and they would talk about it, and I feel like I could talk about it on the forums.
You would give them an opportunity to talk.
I would give them an opportunity to talk it out, to explain it, and I do realize it's a crowdsourced game, and things are weighed in, and I would be hoping for they'd made such a drastic and unnecessary and pretty much lore crippling choice. Like,
tell us how you feel. Tell us how you feel.
that they would throw it out there and take that really deep communal impact of a voice into play before they would again, pretty much will drop the Crowfall equivalency of the Jedi drop for Star Wars Galaxies.
Yeah.
There, I said it. I said it. You take out Ganetians. You just dropped in Jedi for Galaxies. That's what.
So there's a line. There is a line that.
So we won't drop them. We'll convert them to weasels.
So I think what you're saying. I think we all agree. And Franklin, I think I think you'll kind of echo this too. I mean, change is inevitable. But as Kickstarter backers, I think to a degree there's already somewhat of a trust that I think we've already kind of lent them in the development. What do you think? I mean, is this post just an honest transparency, or do you think there's other huge changes they're already planning that they're kind of preparing us for? What do you think?
I think they're taking their experience in game development and preparing us for the eventuality that something is not going to go to plan, because. Yeah. In essence, we haven't bought the game. We've bought into a concept of a game. And while there is a lot to show us, until all the bricks are laid, we don't know how the building's going to look. And there's going to be problems, and there's going to need to be putting an extra window here and taking out a door there. The final product that we invested in, this vision, is going to have issues, and they're going to have to make adjustments. And I think they're just being honest and upfront, saying, we've planned for most eventualities, but there might be something we just can't work through. And so we will be open and honest and talk to you about that. And as an investor in a concept, as long as they stay true to what they're trying to do, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, if they get down the stream and they decided, nah, we're going to take this down in a completely different river, well, that's a whole different conversation, and I don't think they're going to do that, because you have very invested people in at least the basic course. The size, the scope, the shape of the river might change, but we're down the road of a PvP game with Eternal Kingdoms, and the basic concepts are there. And I think they did the right thing in saying it very early on, before that first hiccup that's going to come, because there's going to be some, ever happens. Because if they waited until that first hiccup happened and then they say, oh, by the way, that would have been disastrous from a player trust, player communication standpoint. So
yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. So that discussion I thought was necessary. And the other one is, I just wanted to give you guys a chance to chime in on the idea of having forums where up until recently anybody could create as many accounts as they wanted and post as much as they wanted. You can tell the way I'm spinning this. Maybe from my perspective, this is the way I see it. Now you got to be a backer if you really want to be able to post on the forums. Even a $5 backer would get you in.
This isn't Yelp, okay? This isn't Yelp where you just get to jump on in. And I've never eaten at this Vietnamese restaurant, but I don't like the way it smells.
Right.
Across the street. So you should never eat there. You know what I mean? It's I see no limitation on the concept of having customers or engaged players by backing having set logins tied to their initial engagements being linked into their thing. I want them to ask for my input, and that's a good way to track that my input has value, that I'm engaged in the game.
Well, and I think you got to look at it from a feedback management perspective. If they only have, let's call it, 1 million people invested in the game, that's 1 million accounts on the forums that are able to give dialogue. If they made it to where anybody that just wanted to create an account, now you've got 3 million, 5 million people potentially on the forums discussing the game that aren't invested in it. Now we're Reddit. Now we're any other place that's just people talking for the sake of talking. Trying to manage that feedback and going through it, I think it's unfair to those that have backed to try and get their voice heard, and have Pan's team trying to filter through all that and understand, okay, who is the customer here and who's not. So, I mean, I can't go to Costco and go shopping because I don't buy the card. Why should you be able to come to the forums and invest in our forums? That's keeping it simple.
Yeah, Yeah, and to me, I don't think it's an unusual move in the games industry. I think if you have a pay-to-play game, it's not a free-to-play game, it's a pay-to-play game, where in order to play the game you have to pay, it would make sense that the forums would be reserved for the customer. It's a customer forum. It's a forum for people that have paid. Other games do this. This is not an unusual thing. Again, I think some people, and in both of these subjects, I do think there is a cynicism that some gamers have. I think they just sometimes take things a little bit too seriously. A while back, I made a cartoon. I did that Batman thing where Robin says something and then Batman slaps him. And,
yes.
And the cartoon I made, it was Robin saying, "I don't think I could stand to ever have my heart broken like that again." And then Batman slaps him and says, "It's a freaking video game." So the whole idea is, I mean, this is a hobby. This is a place where we game, and we're dealing with people that, we're dealing with, a studio. In this case, we're dealing with a studio that's very small. This is not Blizzard. This is not Activision. This is not EA. This is not a huge studio. This is a small handful of people, and they all see the feedback. It's not like they can't see it. And it's not like we're in the dark as far as what's happening. And quite frankly, if I've heard of Crowfall and I'm really interested in the game, understanding it's a crowd-funded game, if I want to have a say in that game, why can't I throw down $5 to be a backer? Why can't I throw it right now? In fact, I mean, the game's going to be $50 right now. You can get the game cheaper than that. Why not throw some money down to be involved in the development? To me, if I want to have a say in the game and I want to be a part of the community, I should be a customer, and that's my thought on it. Because it won't get rid of the trolling, I can tell you that.
Well, no, there'll be plenty of trolls, but
trolls have
at least
money
it'll
too.
be at least it'll be something that there are trolls that are at least tied to more specific accounts.
At least
They're
aggressive.
trolls with his job, maybe, or an allowance.
Yes, I prefer my trolls to be employed.
That's right. That's right.
And at least I know it's costing them money for them to be jackasses on the forums. So I've got that going for me. Yes, that's nice.
Well,
all right, guys.
And you got to flip that around, because just because they're trolling, that means they have passion. They just may not communicate well, or
absolutely
they're just trying to stir up dialogue. And well, heck, isn't that what we do as a podcast? Stir up dialogue.
Very good. Very good.
All right, so let's get to the speculation. Let's start off with Anhrez. What is your top speculation? What are we discussing?
Well, I just thought there's a nice piece there in the FAQs that talk about resources versus materials, right? So in the actual FAQs, when you look at the econ stuff, it says resources can be harvested from the environment and sometimes found on certain monsters. Materials come from points of interest like factories, lumber mills, mines, quarries. So I get a couple of assumptions out of this. My rampant speculation on this is, one, resources, of course, are different than materials, right? So if I see a raw node, let's call it a formation of iron in my EK or in a campaign, I can mine it. What I'm going to get out of that is, raw ore in my bag. That's a resource, right? On the other hand, when I look at the points of interest, which are quarries, lumber mills, and mines, those things output refined materials. Lumber mills bring back not wood, but planks. Quarries don't bring back raw rock. They bring back formatted stone ready to build. And mines bring back, actual ingots. So there's not only is the points of interest in EKs, in the campaigns going to be, places where there's tons of combat and stuff, but the ratio of the materials is going to be completely different than someone like myself in a stealth class or a sneaky on the belly Ganetian class, who are out in the resource nodes looking for independent stuff. Because, I'm going to be one step behind the resource process. What it also tells me is that, the concept of we're probably going to see those types of node environments on our EKs, including the monsters, where we get the rough, resources, and we'll only, of course, see the materials and that's as well. They've only been repeated to being in the EKs, and so it just seems to make sense that they would have those small node mechanics both in campaigns and in EKs. It's just the solo player is going to run across something that they can pick up or kill or put in their back pocket when they're out on the campaign. But if the overall team wants to go in to and get this mine, it's going to take effort, planning, sustainability, the ability to keep it. And so, again, my kind of speculation is really the difference between resources and materials, as materials are maybe one step up in the refining process versus resources are the raw materials you pull from nodes.
Sure. And there's also a lot of impact as far as the transportation and how much inventory space these take, because you've got to figure that resources will take up more space than materials, right?
Right, and resources are something, though, that if you run across them in the wild, Arawulf may be able to pick that up and put it in his pocket. On the other hand, there's no way you're going to be able to pick up and put in your pocket something coming necessarily from a points of interest to get back to your keep to be able to do the important things that you need to do to keep ahead in the campaign.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because I think there was an example that Todd gave where he talked about a caravan where they kill the horse. And then now, how are we going to carry the stuff?
Yeah, I got to get 100 friends to come by and everyone take 20 planks if you have space in your inventory, and try to run all those things back. Well, now you're just waiting to be ganked by whoever planned to kill the horse. So no, I love the strategic pieces of that.
There's a couple of pieces in there that interest me also, because when you talk about raw resources and you reference Mike finding some in the wild. Okay, but we haven't even talked about the skill or the ability to harvest resources. So a non-miner finding ore, sure, you can find some, but it's going to take a true skilled miner to get good quality ore that takes up less space out of a mine than a non-crafter. So you bring all these help to dig rocks, but you're going to need a miner to separate it, or you're going to be carrying potentially a whole lot more rock back to the foundry to turn it into the workable material than if you didn't bring a miner. At least I hope that's the way it is.
Well, it's an interesting point, Chief, because if you look at it that way, then it really is becoming a not only resource management but skills management, because if it takes 8 people to go out there and clear up all this low quality resources to come back and make a dozen iron ingots, would it be better to have 2 highly skilled miners out doing some scouting and have the rest of them being engaged in a point of interest battle? Because if you can get that point of interest battle and take the mine, you're going to have a much more consistent stream of materials, even though there's a risk, right? There's a chance that you're not going to take the point of interest. But if you do get it, the return on effort and deaths may be better than having a bunch of people with mediocre to no skills out there picking up resource nodes.
Well, and it could be, because there's different levels of it, because you can have unskilled miners just mining like crazy and potentially have a miner sifting through what to put on the cart and what not to. So you have a time investment but may not get a whole lot of resources. Or you could have just 5 miners doing all the digging, and they get the same amount with less time involved because they know what to harvest. But then you have to haul it to the quarry, have it turned into the materials. There you go. Sorry. And then that material has to be hauled somewhere to be crafted into an item. Or you may be able to do it depending on at that resource place, vice the quarry, vice the mine, or whatever. So there is that definite level of how is skill going to affect it, and we're just speculating because we don't know yet. Because it might not require any skill to mine. Anybody can mine, but it's going to take.
Don't say that.
Oh, well, it
scares me.
We're speculating both sides of the house here.
I know.
And maybe all the skill is just at the quarry. So you can have anybody bring as much rock as they want. It may turn out to be junk over half of it unless you're skilled to separate it at the quarry. So where do they draw the line in the skill vice, time invested times the waste? Then the strategy for killing and protecting these places. Can you find it in the wild, or can you only find it in mines? I mean, there's so many different ways they can take that. So it's a really interesting discussion, but I do like the fact that they've separated resources and materials and final products as 3 separate activities that have to go together to be a successful campaign. So
let me introduce gold into this mix, because now we have another way that these items can change hands. You see, here's the thing. What am I going to do with resources? I probably won't be gathering them. I probably won't be making much with them. So for me, the question of resources, to me, resources are only valuable if I've been given the job to go protect somebody who's getting them, transporting them. See, to me, ultimately, the value that I have in materials are what can help me and my team win. So that's my take on it. So, for me, my question isn't where do resources come from? It's where does my gear come from? Where does my keep how does my keep become more powerful? So to me, I've got the end in mind, and I work backwards, and I'll go back as far as I need to. But for me, what's interesting is gold. For me, when I'm out on the battlefield and I'm hopefully winning, right? And I loot people.
Yeah,
am I going to be
your
more
piggy
happy?
Bank. Yeah,
am
the
I
bodies are your piggy bank. Yeah.
Exactly. So where do resources come from? Dead things, dead people. Right, and quite frankly, am I gonna rather than be carrying gold or resources for the sake of being able to take more with me? I'm kind of hoping they're carrying gold, because how many rocks am I going to be able to carry? What am I going to do with them? I guess I'm lucky. I know some crafters, right? So I'm going to say, hey, what's this worth to you? Or maybe I'll know what these are worth to my side. But to me, am I going to want to loot a dude that's got a bag full of rocks, or am I going to rather?
I guess
have
it depends
gold?
on how easy it is to drop your rocks. So I mean, it's always better to have 80% full of your bags and always choose what you want to drop, versus waiting for 20% of your bag and waiting for just the best things. But that does add weight. So someone like yourself who really does care, yeah, you're probably right. Carrying around a bag of rocks may not actually be that much of an input for you.
But see, I think you have to take it back a step and say, well, where are we in the campaign? Are you in the beginning, the middle, point, or the end? If you're just all carried about killing, grabbing some gold, and we're at the beginning of the campaign, you got no resources for the crafters to make you a new shiny sword. So guess what? No more killing for you. That gold is completely useless. So I think it's going to come down to really how your team prioritizes what to do in each stage of the campaign and what you're willing to support. Because if you're just a guy that wants to go on the front line and kill, and you don't care about supporting your crafters that need to go to the mine and get some resources, well, we're going to lose. You might have some boring time standing around protecting the crafters like Anhrez and I, trying to get that ore to make you a new shiny sword, but in the end, it's going to probably pay off because you will have plenty of shiny swords to go do all the killing to collect the gold. But I think it's a tactical decision. It comes down to
you have to know what helps your team win. I think that reality is going to come down hard on a lot of folks that fail to understand how the little details like preparation and strategy will impact the victory outside of just zerging and killing. Like, I don't see. I'll be straight up, and I know Thomas is in chat, and I think he would agree with this. If winning a campaign turns out to be nothing but zergs, this game will fail.
Oh, definitely.
So that is not the goal, and I know that the team is going to do everything they can to keep that from happening. So you're exactly right, Chief, because I think anybody that's worth his salt at the beginning of a campaign will know how critical it is to prepare, to scout, to gather resources, etc. I may want to go kill a bunch of noobs out of the battlefield, but if I need to go kill some monsters to get materials, I'll go do it. You do what you got to do to win.
Right.
That's the way.
And like Keegan is talking about there, your scouts. You don't want your scouts taking the time to pick up anything.
God,
information is the key. So now you got to think about, well, everybody on my team needs to earn something, even if they don't pick it up. So how do you think about that for the end game, whether it's resources, gear, or sharing of the gold that does get collected? Because if I'm the scout and I'm marking all the points of interest, and I send James to do all the harvesting, and I send you to do all the killing, at the end of the day, we all need to make something. And if we don't come together on how that's going to work, well, I'm going to end up with no resources or money because I haven't killed nobody and I haven't mined anything. So it really comes down to that global team effort, whether it's a sub-team within the campaign or the entire campaign coming together and figuring that out, whether beforehand or working it out as you go. So good discussion, I think.
Yeah, that's good. That's good speculation. James, I know James. As long as I've known James, I don't know anybody that's better at speculating. And but
hey, broken clocks, broken clocks, right? Twice a day, and that's it. Nostradamus only looked smart because he had 50,000 guesses and 8 were right. So that's all I'm doing.
Perfect.
You guess enough, you'll get right once in a while, right?
Absolutely.
That's why people continue to buy lottery tickets for 50 years.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
All right. Well, Mike, what kind of speculation do you have for us today, sir?
Well, I want to talk about something that I'm not sure how decided this is. So I think it's a good thing to speculate. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Of course, my focus, on this cast has always been the big picture, the battle, being on the field, the winning. Right? I want to win. So. My speculation is regarding group and alliance functionality. So we get into the game, we have our faction, we have our guild, we have our team. And I'm sure on the game itself, we will be able to visually look and see who's on our team and who isn't, whether it be the color of the nameplate or whatever. Right? We're going to look, and I'm going to know where Chief is, I'm going to know where Anhrez is, I'm going to know where my team is, and I'm going to know the enemy. I'm going to be able to see them and know who they are, right? But if I'm out scouting, how do I communicate with specific people? For example, is the 3 of us are out there and we're a strike team, and we're now out achieving a certain goal. Okay, so we've got Bill, we've got Chief, we've got James, we've got myself. We're in a strike team. We're out together to accomplish a strategic maneuver in the world, right? And we're in a group together. And so maybe we have our own group chat. We have our own individual group chat, and we communicate with each other. We also see I'm sure our faction chat or our guild chat, right? That's in the. But then we run into 7 other people. And we realize that we need more people in our group to be able to achieve this. And we bring in 7 other people. So now we've got 10, 11 people. Can we merge those groups together? Do we have to invite, reform? How do we, outside of what I can see on my screen, and if Anhrez burrows under the ground and I can't see him, how do I strategically keep my group together? How do I organize my small group without having to pick out people out of the 50 to 100, 200, or however many hundreds of people are in my faction? You figured a 3-faction world, you're going to have a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people in chat. And the opposite in the dregs. How does alliance management work? How does group management work? How does it show up on the UI? These are designed
friendly fire is going to matter, right? So if you don't have some sort of grouping mechanic and you're thinking of letting a big fireball go to the left, if you have friendlies come in and you're not able to communicate with them, those friendlies could be gone pretty quick.
And in chat bubbles, I can see some value, like visually on the screen, because I know that's kind of where things are going. But I'm very curious as to how the group dynamics will work. It has to feel natural. It has to feel smooth. It can't be clunky. In a game where strategy matters and skill matters and planning matters, it would be a shame to lose a fight because I had no way to communicate to my other team that was on the other side of the keep we're attacking, or we're trying to flank somebody and we can't, there's no way to organize that stuff. Like I'm sure in other games perhaps guilds have figured out a way to do that, but I don't have any experience in that, so maybe that's why I have the question. But to me, I think having and I know it's a smaller team, a smaller game, and Crowfall will be very stripped down. There's not going to be a lot of comforts that some other MMOs have. So I'm very curious of how the chat system, the alliance system, the grouping system, the raid system will work. I'm very, very interested in that. That's important to me.
Well, it brings a number of questions for me because one, you're talking about communication, you're talking about group organization, and you're assuming that there's some kind of map representation. And all of those can branch out in numerous different ways to tackle this. I mean, because in some respects, we're dealing with swords and fighting, and the expectation that there's cross-map communication almost takes away from that philosophy. But then you could go, well, we have the crows and the god system, and maybe we have something that helps us with that and brings us into a situation, but that's a lot of speculation. And group sizes, this assumes there would even be groups, and it's not just coordinating with the people that are around you or forming up teams and it's all visually maintained, and once you're out of sight, do you need runners to communicate? I mean, hopefully it's not that difficult, because that might take too much away from the game and keeping it fun and interesting, because then everybody's just going to switch to a voice chat anyway, right? So you got to find that middle ground. But wow, there's just too many possibilities. I mean, I would like to see no fixed group sizes. If somebody wants to join up with you, it just naturally expands. Call it like the Eve UI, where you could just see everybody that's in the squad or the fleet, right? And you can break it down into groups, Tactical Squadron A, Tactical Squadron B, whatever. Something like that would probably really work. The problem is how do you represent that on a UI for this type of game and make it seem like it actually belongs? That's a tough one. To me, that really is a hard thing to do on the UI, but having fixed group sizes really takes away, because I hate groups are only size 5 unless you're in a raid, then it's size 10. Well, wait a minute, when I only got 7 people that want to play together. Now we can't group up. I hope they find a way to get around that, because we don't know how big the campaigns are going to be, but hopefully they've taken account the max size and how to compartmentalize it down into strike teams and harvest teams and crafting teams and communication, and make it seamless. I don't know. I think it's a little early for me to speculate, but I know what I would like to see. But anyway.
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
I just wonder. I mean, in certain campaigns, it makes, again, the group's talking about some vent or, some sort of voice chat. And again, that makes sense. But, if you look at some of the campaigns, again, like Guild Wars, World v. World, not everyone who you don't want to kill with friendly fire is necessarily going to be tied to your group at that moment in time, engaged in your vent. So even if it's not the ability to easily recognize them in something, I'd like to at least be able to understand, in my line of fire, how can I easily tell, because if it's faction, can I have a Chaos Ganetian versus an Orderly Ganetian? I don't know. We don't really know that stuff, right? So I can't say, oh, there's Ganetians over there. I can throw I have to be careful. That's friendly fire. We won't know, will we, where someone's factions lie? So just looking at, there's orcs over there. If I'm a human, there's not a lot of orcs on the human side in WoW, so that's pretty easy to take a swing. But I mean, I feel like this game is going to play at a deeper, more at a deeper strategic level of not being as reckless, especially with friendly fire. And so I am interested on the concept of, again, I'm not saying minimap, but wasn't it interesting, even though it failed miserably, that people would work up real quick and be able to get some sort of officer ranking in Guild Wars 2, right? So they could do more stuff on the map and create small strike teams and better communicate. So, yeah.
So here's how I see it, because all of those questions kind of led me, and Pam's really touching on it in chat here, because
yeah, I see that.
Here's to me the cheapest and easiest way to get close to being able to do what we want. I would love to see the ability to create a custom chat channel, like just create a channel and then name a channel, and then me go, hey, you join me in this channel, this chat, and then create a tab for it. So now I have just the people I want to talk to in that chat. They don't even need to be in a group. And then in that chat, and I can color it whatever color I want, purple, whatever. And then in that, I've got a macro where I'm now pasting my mumble. I actually already have a mumble just for this. Like, I'm already planning on needing one. So,
true.
And I don't even use it. Like, I'm not playing anything hardcore right now, but I have a mumble chat because I know that someday I'm going to need it. And in there, boom, I pop my mumble details in.
Sure.
Hopefully, and this is where it's going to be interesting. Hopefully, if they're serious and they really want to help and they want to be on the strike team, they'll get in. We're on it, right? Because I'm going to have Mumble on my computer. I'll have Vent on my computer. I'm going to have TeamSpeak on my computer. And, over the course of campaigns, I can see people on the forums saying, hey, if you're in this campaign, talk to me. We're going to chat on Skype or whatever. We need to talk strategy, or I need people to go do this.
GameVox.
I don't know what GameVox is. Is that a new voice chat?
Yeah, it's another one.
Oh, see, Black Wolf, he's always into the new stuff, man.
He's in it.
He's like a hipster. Like, oh, I was using Mumble before it was cool. Oh, we've all moved on to GameVox, I don't know. Is that good? I don't know if it's any good or not.
I've used it once to call into the Crows and Crowns show.
Oh, really?
They've got a setup. You can call into their show and they bring you into the chat that they're using for their thing. Yeah, it's an interesting way to get offline callers.
So are we like old fashioned using Skype then? Is that?
Let's just leave it at old. Just old.
I think old. Yeah, something. We're something. I don't know.
So again, I think you could do without having to have groups at all.
Right.
And the visual concerns are there for sure, but if you look at Shadowbane, the faction flags were on the nameplates.
Sure, that made it
actually
nice and visible.
Yeah, nice, so you can see the faction flag on the nameplates themselves. So I can see something like that, because you will need to be able to, at a glance, know where somebody's allegiance lies, and I think that may be what they do. I don't know. It's the big, loud, noisy UI elements are kind of out of fashion, but I can see that being a possibility. Looking up and saying, okay, I don't want to hit that guy. He's got my flag on. So maybe that's how they'll handle that part of it without needing to create a group system. But even creating my own, like I said, creating a chat channel, Arawulf's Cool Dudes team, and
nice.
If you're in, you get my Mumble. That's a thought.
Yeah. So my only problem with having to need Mumble, Vent, TeamSpeak, all of these assumes people have the capability to dial in. And then the part of that assumption also assumes that they want to dial in, not because they don't want to communicate, but because what typically happens in those types of voice chats, if you don't know the people, very little good communication happens. They digress into, this is my channel, I'm in charge, and just shut the hell up and listen. It doesn't become a social teamwork building exercise unless they're guild driven. And it's very easy to exclude people just for the sake of excluding them, because it's an out of game tool. And so that's the razor's edge you have to come there. Yes, they're going to get used, but making it a mandatory part of the process and expecting people to just alt-tab out a game if they only have a single screen, joining up in a chat channel, in a short amount of time when things are hopefully in the middle of action and you just come across them and want to add them to your group, kind of takes away from the whole thing. So I hope they find some middle ground that makes it easy to do what you're saying without requiring external tools of getting out of game. Maybe they let you access them directly in the game and you can just click a button and say, join a TS channel from in-game. You know, if they build that in, then they meet the middle of the road. It still doesn't alleviate all my concern with the topic, but, you know, that's the whole problem with a lot of people. A lot of people won't even join a voice chat just because the nature of the way they end up being treated. So,
I didn't know you'd ever listen to me lead a chat before.
Here's the other thing is following the piece is that if you can have a voice signature of who's doing stuff, that does take away from the little bit of cloak and dagger. I'm playing the long con. Like, we'll see.
Yeah. So anyway, we're getting down towards the end here.
Yeah. So I think you've got a speculation too, don't you, Chief?
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about death mechanics, because this is a PvP game, and death mechanics, you know, how they work. If there's penalties for death beyond looting, we already know the looting is there. Let's get beyond that. But is there any other kind of death penalties for dying? And if so, how long are you out of game? Because what really detracts from a PvP game is the instant respawn. All of a sudden, I'm dead, but I'm back in action. To me, that just completely takes away and adds to the Zerg mentality, because even if the graveyard is far away, theoretically, you can still get back in a relative short amount of time. And it's really frustrating in that aspect, unless the fact that you got looted and you have no gear, so now you have to go somewhere else and get gear before you can jump back in the battle. How do you guys look at that death thing? Because, you know, to me, I think it would be really interesting, you know, with the gods, the crows, you know, maybe you're out of game for a little bit and a crow has to bring you back and you have to do some kind of mini game to come back to life in a quicker time frame, or you have to have somebody in your group help bring you back. I don't know. There's lots of different ways to do it, but, you know, I'm really concerned that it's going to be, instant res in the nearest graveyard, whether you're a ghost or your corpse run to your body and you get back in your body and you're back alive. It's going to trivialize death to the point to where it makes it meaningless, and I hope not to see that. So
yeah, Franklin, let me ease your concern on that just a little bit, because my prediction is that respawn will be fairly quick, but there's a problem. I have to re-gear. That's going to add a lot of time.
Yeah, because you drop everything, right? You drop everything on the body.
That is going to have a huge effect on my effectiveness getting back to the field. Am I really going to run straight back to the front line if I'm naked? No. I'm going to have to, my team will not only have to capture graveyards in a specific location, I'm also going to have an Anhrez somewhere nearby.
Quartermaster.
I'm going to have
strategically have a me or a chief who's going to have enough gear to at least get you started.
I'm going to need a freaking sword. You know, what am I going to do? So to me personally, like, I'm going to die a lot. I'm just going to say this right now. I will die a lot. You guys will make a lot of money off me because I'm reckless. I'm Leroy. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to win, and that means I'm going to be at risk. But that also means that here's the thing. I hope that I do not have to look at a long. Let me tell you something. One of the most frustrating things, you know, if I'm playing the Heroes of the Storm and I die and I have to look at a 40-second respawn timer, I want to kick my keyboard off of the screen, like off the screen, off the table. I want to kick my monitor, because to me that is time I could be out there with my buddies. I feel like it is an absolute waste of time. And so for me, I want to res quickly, especially if I know now I've got to go. I got to get gear. Like, they took all my stuff.
Yeah, you think you died fast enough when you were fully geared. You run back in the middle of the Zerg, wearing nothing but a smile and a set of boxers. You're going to die even faster, and you're going to be exactly where you were.
Now, but didn't they say that you'll never come back naked? You always come back with a basic set of gear.
In
And
Crowfall, that's what they mean by naked. That's the definition of the term naked is you still have clothes on, you'll have a basic starter set.
Sure.
so that basic starter set could come with a basic weapon. So to me, the whole argument of having to run for gear kind of is a takeaway from there if that's true. Now, if you come back with just clothes on your back and you don't have a weapon, okay, now I'm kind of feeling you. But
again, your weapon's going to take damage. So there's a difference between death full drop mechanic, right? So I'm dropping all my gear and some of my stuff above and beyond the basic set. But even your basic set is going to take damage. So if I have a sword, it's taking damage. So if I run foolishly back in, on my second or third time, will the sword actually even be there?
Right, and I think Keegan actually makes a point in chat here. He's saying it's not gear; it's just clothing,
just basic clothes.
Even in the Raph Koster video, the very first video that came out, and Raph was holding it. Remember, he was holding up those pieces of paper, and he says, "This is no good. This is an outpost because this is a bad spot. But here, if you die, then you got to come over here to re-gear." He even used that specific example. If you die, you're going to have to re-gear. So I really do think that for the most part, unless somebody just doesn't care and they just want to go keep getting killed, which is fine, I guess. I really think people are going to need to re-gear. I really do. That's my prediction anyway. So I'm not concerned about a long respawn timer. I'm very concerned about the zerging, and I made that point earlier for sure. So I agree with you on that 100%, Franklin. I don't as somebody who plans on dying a lot, I don't want a long respawn timer. And I hope. It doesn't mean I want to die 2 feet from the. I don't want to die and be like a shaman and WoW and just spring right back up and go haha, right? But at the same time, I think that the re-gearing is gonna kind of be to a degree a pretty. I mean, not a huge penalty. It took me 3 months to get this sword. Now it's gone. But at the same time, I do think that is part of the penalty of dying, and that's going to make it where you don't want to die. You don't want to lose.
Here's an interesting part. We don't know if weapons and discipline stones have anything in sync with each other. You know what I mean? So if one of my discipline choices is, shield mastery or whatever, and if I die so much and I lose my shield, sure, maybe I can run back with a 50% damaged sword, but I don't have a shield, and I have, depending on the discipline stones that I have set up, am I even remotely even viable? So I'm like you, Franklin. I'm not a huge fan of letting people just conga line back to the front line to die. I think that there has to be some sort of natural throttling. I always I'm concerned about too much of a long wait because that just takes away from the emotional commitment of everyone being tied in one of those really good fights. So, but it'll be interesting to see if they can balance allowing the deterioration destruction mechanic on death along with drop of gear drop percentages act like a natural filter. Because if that's true, I'm going to be making bank. I'm going to be sitting in a nice quiet place, beeline from the graveyard far enough back that Pan won't get me within the friendly fire, and then I'll just sit back and go, oh Arawulf, good to see you again. I have your 4th sword right here. Don't worry, I'm tracking it for you in my Shylock add-on. And at the end of everything will come due at the end of the week. No, you can have it for free right now. Don't worry, I'm tracking it. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, and I understand what you guys are saying, and the gear's going to gate the thing. My concerns still are, though, you're complaining about a long res timer, but what about the situation when there's no more gear to get because all the crafters are dead or we're out of resources? So now your time away from battle is actually longer than having a res penalty and being able to get back in the fight. So I mean, there's that catch-22. Okay, we're out of gear. Well, now the other team has killed us so many times, there's no more gear. So now what are you going to do? I mean, so while I understand what you guys are saying, I'm not necessarily agreeing that that's the best or the only way to approach the death mechanics within Crowfall. I think we have some options here to make things a little more interesting that's not just, oh, I lost my gear. Oh, I got to get some gear. I'm going back into battle. Oh, I died again.
See,
that's
I
that's a treadmill.
On that, but it is a treadmill, but it's a good treadmill. I mean,
well, for us that wants to make the profits.
Yeah, but it's a good treadmill for the campaign. If we break this down back to the concept of hunger, specific resources, etc., the teams that recklessly go through their resources early should lose the big battle. So you're absolutely right. I'm just saying that I don't think Crowfall has to help you play strategically. If you're going to allow people to just, recklessly die and burn through gear to gain nothing, then you're really hurting your long-term chances in the campaign. I don't think they should throttle the ability for you to play poorly. I just have never been a huge fan of, well, okay, I'm not great at PvP. That's my 4th death. I've got enough time to go get a cup of coffee while I wait in the graveyard. I just feel like that disconnects me from the opportunity to be engaged in the campaign, or at least running somewhere, or going to do something, or going to find a couple of rocks to bang together to make a new sword. That's all I'm saying, is that I feel like they're long death respawns have we've seen those in a lot of games. I think in some games they work, some games they don't. But since resources in themselves are supposed to be so important in the campaigns, allowing people to recklessly burn through their resources may be actually something Crowfall wants to do.
All right, well, and I understand all that, and you guys are asphyxiating on long death spawns. I'm talking about just the death mechanic itself. It doesn't have to be a long spawn, but does it have to be a graveyard? Does it have to be, spawn right where your body's at and you have to wait so much time to res? I mean, what other ways can we do this? Because, in some respects, the whole spawn at a graveyard and run back to your corpse. Is there a benefit to run back to where you died even though your body's been looted? Is there not? Is there no reason to go back to where your body's at? There's so much more to this than I died and I came back. And that's what I was trying to get at.
Let's have a don't run to the light game. Like, I'm dead. Don't run to the light. And we're now running away. Like, let's just run away. Like, can I, how can I run away and dodge? I think there are things that can be done. I'm not thinking of anything. So
yeah, well, that's why I brought it up for the discussion, because it's early enough to where we can start to speculate and make suggestions. There's too many different things that could be done, and there's so many things that have been done, and this is a PvP focused game. I just hope Crowfall does something to make it more interesting, not make it seem like a constant treadmill. Make it strategic, like you said. Not every campaign has 100% loot drop, so you can't say that only the loot drop is your only penalty, because then what about the bands that you don't drop loot at all? You just die. Those are rules that you can have in your campaign. So something's got to tie all this together as a single commonality, regardless of what band you're on and what the loot rules are. So, anyway, that's why I brought it up.
Good point. So. I'm probably the first loot item I'm going to lose will probably be my pants.
Yeah, that's it.
That's because you kick them off when you run into battle.
Boot. It's because I will lose one boot. I will lose like one boot, and then that will slow my run speed.
Good stuff, guys. Very, very good stuff. And that really takes us to the end of the show.
Wow, look at that.
Wow, what a talk. Here we are, we're bi-weekly, and we're like, well, we're bi-weekly because, we both have our main gigs we do. We're busy, right? We've got lives, and Crowfall's still in development, so we can get 2 weeks of news into one show. And here we are. We've got stuff that we could probably keep talking for another half an hour. But
easy.
But we do keep the show an hour, and we do appreciate all of you that have come out tonight to our brand new channel here on Twitch, the Golden Glory podcast channel. We do, of course, we always appreciate those of you who are watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes. Thank you so much for coming out. And this episode will be uploaded to iTunes and put up on our site later this week, so keep an eye out for that. And for our cast, of course, I am Arawulf. You can find me on Twitter at Arawulf, ARAWULF. And Anhrez, where can people find you, sir?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Anhrez, and also be sure to check out MMO-Central.com. I've been kicking out a few articles. Got some pretty exciting ones in the hopper I'm working on right now. One of them's Crowfall specific. A couple of them are just generic crafting ones. We're gonna start kicking out some articles there.
Great. And last but not least, the man behind the curtain that makes all this happen, Chief Sarcan. How can people find you, sir?
Well, I'm up all over the place as Chief_Sarcan. Twitter is the best way to follow and keep in touch with me. I also have my blog, the MMOchief.com, where you can find my ramblings and collections from all the different places that I write articles and guides for. But mostly you'll find my latest articles up at mmorpg.com, so make sure to give them some love because they help get us started. I still will be hosting over there on that channel, even though we'll be streaming here from now on. So if you want to get the word out, help us that, yes, you can still watch at mmorpg.com, but we're doing it here mainly from now for the immediate future. And so thanks for coming out, hanging with us. We really appreciate you keeping to come back, watching the Golden Glory. We love interacting with you guys, and be sure to send us your questions. Let us know what you want to talk about, because our show's about you.
Awesome. Guys, have a great night. Don't forget to hit that follow button here on Twitch. Hit that follow button before you go.
Yes, follow this channel. This channel.
Yeah,
this
all right.
Channel.
Take care, everybody. Good night.
Oh, good night.